One of the reasons God created the church was to create an environment for folk to help you keep going.
Dr. Tony Evans talks about God's provision in our lives.
He's saying keep going because he wants you to reach your destiny, because he wants you to be his partner.
This is The Alternative Broadcast, featuring the timeless biblical teachings from the archives of Dr. Tony Evans. Have you ever found yourself alone in an unfamiliar area with no cell phone, no GPS, and no map to guide you? Navigating life without God's direction is much like that. Sooner or later, you'll find yourself lost and nowhere near where you intended to be. Well, today, Dr. Evans takes us to the 3rd chapter of Hebrews for a look at how staying true to Christ can keep us headed in the right direction. Let's join him.
The book of Hebrews, a fascinating book in the Bible, written primarily to Jewish Christians to tell them don't turn back. They had run into difficult times following the Lord, rejection, persecution. They were being ostracized because they were now Christians following Christ. And some of them were reneging on the faith. They were backing up because the going had gotten tough. So the author of the book of Hebrews, we're not told who he is, but the author of the book of Hebrews is writing to encourage these saints. Don't give up because of what awaits you. Because of what awaits you. The truth we're told, there are very few of us who have not been tempted to renege. To say it's not worth it, it's not working, I quit, I throw in the towel, I'm going back. These Christians had walked away from the old religious system that they were a part of in order to follow Christ. So they had lost friends, family. For many of us, walking back would mean going back to the world outside of our faith, the world we were redeemed out of because of the difficulty, trouble, trials that are associated with following Christ in the faith. And the message is the same. Don't you give up. And his argument, as we started in chapter 1 and chapter 2, is Jesus Christ is worth the trouble. Jesus Christ is worth the trouble. This God-man, although there is trouble associated with him and your association with him, he is worth the trouble. We ended with chapter 2. Verse 18, for since he himself was tempted in that which he has suffered, he is able to come to the aid of those who are tempted. So he ends chapter 2 by telling you, if you're tempted to go back, he's there to help. Jesus Christ, he says, is able to come to the aid of those who are tempted. When you're struggling with reneging on the faith, that is when, if I can put it this way, Jesus is most available to you. He comes in chapter 3, therefore, holy brethren. So he's talking to Christians. They're not just brethren, they're holy brethren. These are saved people. Holy brethren, partakers. Now that's the concept we dealt with in chapter 1, metachoi, the Greek word. Metachoi meant companions or partners. When God saved you, he didn't just save you to go to heaven one day. He saved you to partner with him in an enterprise. So he wants you to be a partner in your heavenly calling, your divine purpose for which he has saved you. And it is so unfortunate that so many Christians who are going to heaven never partner with God on the way there. Consider Jesus the apostle, apostle means the one sent, and the high priest of our confession. So when you accepted Christ, you made a confession, you got baptized, and that confession was not only that I accept him as Savior, but that I'm willing to follow him. So he's the one sent apostle to be your representative before God. He was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was in all his house. For he had been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, by just so much as the builder of the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. Now Moses was faithful in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken of later. But Christ was faithful as a son over his house, whose house we are, if we hold fast our confidence and the boast of our hope firm until the end. Now, what's that all about? Well, if you were a Jew, your hero in the Old Testament was Moses. That's your hero. Moses was the big Mahath in the Old Testament. And under Moses, the Old Testament system was built. That Old Testament system, centered in the tabernacle, was called the house. The tabernacle was called God's house. But that house that Moses built, that he oversaw, he was the one God used to put together the religious system of the Old Testament. That was the house. Well, they had left Moses' house and come to Christ. But because of the trouble coming to Christ, they wanted to go back to the old house. Because their friends were in the whole house, the history was in the whole house, the relationship was in the whole house. You know, that whole house didn't have all these problems. So he's calling that old system the house. He said, well, Moses was in the house. He says, but Jesus is over the house. He's saying, don't even think of comparing Moses with Jesus. He great, but he ain't this great. Notice he says at the end of verse 6, if we hold fast our confidence and the boast of our hope firm until the end. Translation, keep going till you reach the finish line, the end, the finish line. Complete where God is taking you, even though there are ups and downs on the trip. Don't turn back now. There is the temptation to throw in the spiritual towel, especially when trials and trouble, when everybody being blessed and heavens are open and it's raining goodness on you. You ain't think about throwing down the towel in. But when it's trouble and it's extended trouble or deep trouble, well, you're thinking about throwing down the towel at that point. Well, he's encouraging them not to do that, not related to salvation, because salvation isn't predicated on holding your confidence. But now he goes to an Old Testament illustration to make his point in verse 7. Therefore, just as the Holy Spirit says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart, meaning don't say no, as when they provoked me, as in the day of trial in the wilderness, where your fathers tried me by testing me and saw my works for 40 years. Therefore I was angry with this generation and said, they always go astray in their heart, and they did not know my ways. As I spoke in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. Okay, now, they did not know my ways, and they tried me, okay? Now, let me give you God's ways so that you're clear on this. This is God's ways for them, and it's God's way for us, because he's writing this to New Testament Christians. So he's applying an Old Testament principle to New Testament Christians, you and me. Here's God's ways. Starts with deliverance. That's when God lets you out of Egypt, when you're born again, when you're saved. Okay? So that's when God sets you free. He delivers you. Deliverance. Second stage of God's ways is development. Development is where he is bringing you into a deeper experience with him. Deliverance is when you're saved. Development is when you grow. Now, in development, there will always be trials and tests. There is no development without trials and tests. None. It's called in the Old Testament the wilderness. Okay? They left Egypt and they entered the wilderness. Even Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. So even Jesus had to go through this process. He didn't need to be saved because there was no sin, but the process, that's why the Bible speaks of Jesus growing as a child into an adult. Even though he was God in the flesh, he still had the human part of his growth. And so he had to grow. So I took them through the wilderness. And through the wilderness, I showed them my power. They got thirsty, I brought water out the rock. They got hungry, quail rained down from heaven, manna rained down from heaven. So even though they were tested, I got them through it. Why did he let them go through that tough time? Because it's only in the trial when God comes through that you experience how real God is.
Dr. Evans will tell us where God's deliverance and development lead when he continues our message in just a moment. First, though, the lesson you've been hearing today is just one installment in Tony's 13-part sermon series, Don't Ever Give Up. That's the primary takeaway from our study of the book of Hebrews. But there's so much more we can learn within its pages. You'll discover the role Jesus plays in connecting your life with God, how he fulfills and completes the Jewish laws and prophecies found in the Old Testament, the importance of your faith and perseverance today, and so much more. This complete study is available for your own personal audio library on CD or digital download, and it includes additional material we won't have time to present on the broadcast. In fact, due to scheduling limitations, we'll only be able to share about half of Dr. Evans' Hebrews study on the air. This is a valuable collection of messages, and for a limited time, we're making them all available bundled along with Tony's helpful paperback book, Can God Be Trusted in Our Trials? Get them both as a gift with our thanks when you make a donation toward the Alternative Broadcast Ministry. You can do that online today at tonyevans.org. Details of this special offer are right on the homepage. Again, that's tonyevans.org, or reach out to our Resource Center at 1-800-800-3222 for some in-person help. That's 1-800-800-3222. I'll repeat our contact information for you after the second part of today's lesson. Here's Dr. Evans once again.
So there is deliverance, then there is development, leading to destiny. Destiny is where he wants you to wind up. That's where he's taking you. You don't go from deliverance to destiny and skip development. Verse 11, I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. God's rest was a way of referring to their inheritance. God had promised them the land of Canaan in the Old Testament. A land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. He promised them that, and he called it my rest. In other words, the provision I have made for you. So that was a promise that he was going to take them to his divine provision. Now, there is an earthly side to this and a heavenly side to this, okay? The earthly side is when God finishes doing your development and then he places you in the place he wants you for his glory and the advancement of his kingdom. The heavenly side to this is when Jesus comes back and he rules on the planet for 1,000 years before we enter into eternity, by the way. Just so you know, before you hit eternity, you got 1,000 years. It's called the millennium. The 1,000 years is where Jesus will physically be on earth, ruling out of Jerusalem, and he will be the king of the whole earth, or the whole administrative structure of the whole earth will be ruled by Jesus Christ from Jerusalem in that 1,000-year reign. And you and I, as partners, will receive assignments as part of that rule, as part of our inheritance, based on our development. So watch this. So if there is no development, if you've been delivered, you're saved, but there is no development, then you could miss out on your inheritance in time. You will not fully realize all that God wanted from you in time, and you will not be allowed to be a participant in his rule. In other words, you're in the stands, you're not on the field. You don't want to live your life and die never knowing why you were here. Okay? And you don't want to stand before the Lord and he said, you wasted your life, I can't use you now. You can be here, but you just got to watch what's going on. Okay? So that's the two sides of this. His ways, deliverance, development, destiny. Just to give you a little summary, is in Numbers 13. God sent in 12 spies to search out the land, to set up the strategy for taking the land because they had reached their destiny. Verse 25, when they returned from spying out the land at the end of the 40 days, they proceeded to come to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel and showed them the fruit of the land. So they said, woo, this land's got all kind of good stuff. Thus they told him, saying, we went, verse 27, into the land where you sent us, and it certainly does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. So it was just like God said it was. Nevertheless, the people who live in the land are strong, the cities are fortified and very large, and moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. Okay, so they get all the people upset because they say, well, land is nice, but there's a lot of problems up in that land because there's some big folk. Then Caleb quieted, verse 30, the people before Moses and said, we should all means by go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us. So they gave out to the sons of Israel a bad report because they saw the great size of the people. Verse 33, the Nephilim, they said, we are like grasshoppers in their sight. Wouldn't it be better to go back? Same problem in Hebrews. That's why Hebrews 3 quotes this. It says they wanted to go back because to go forward looked too difficult. Okay? Joshua, the son of Nun, verse 6, and Caleb said, the land we have passed through to spy out is a good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, then he will bring us into the land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord and do not fear the people of the land, for they will be our prey. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. But all the congregation said, to stone them with stones. Then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of the meeting to all the sons of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people spurn me? Now, what made the people reject God? Majority opinion. It was majority. It was 10-2. 10 and 12 spies, only 2 said keep going. The majority of opinion. See, the question is not how many folk do this. The question is, are they on God's side? Better to go with 2 who are on God's side than 12 who aren't. Because guess what? The 12 who aren't got you walking in circles for 40 years. And the reason why a lot of us are walking in circles is because we're listening to the wrong people. So we listen to the wrong people. And they got them stuck in the wilderness. So he's telling these New Testament people this Old Testament story, because they could relate to it. They were Jews, so they knew exactly what he was talking about. Don't do what they did and miss out on your destiny. Today, when you hear my voice, don't harden your heart. That means a determined no. Okay? Determined no. So going back to Hebrews, he makes the application in verse 12. Take care, brethren. Take care, brethren. Pay attention, brethren, Christians, that there not be in any one of you an evil, unbelieving heart that falls away from the living God. So he's telling saved people can have an unbelieving heart because they're brethren, they're saved. But they have an unbelieving heart in terms of their progress and their development. So what's going to keep you going? Okay, here it is, verse 13. But encourage one another day after day, as long as it is still called today, so that none of you will be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. One of the reasons God created the church was to create an environment for folk to help you keep going. Much of what I and the pastoral staff and other staff have to do is try to encourage people not to quit. Much of what we do falls into this category of encouraging people not to quit. Because it can get rough. It can get rough. And he says, encourage one another. And that was one of the one another's because, you need encouragement. I need encouragement. And that's why you need an environment to encourage you to keep going. Okay? Joshua and Caleb tried to encourage them to keep going, but they wouldn't listen. They hardened their heart. How do you know when your heart is hard? You decided to go back. Say, I'm going back. I'm going back. God said go forward, but I'm going back. And that hardness of heart is what he's warning them against, to fall away from the living God. So encourage one another. That's what church, not just preaching. It's an environment. That's why we're emphasizing the one another's, caring one another, encouraging one another, because it gets deep sometimes. You don't want to keep going. He says, why? Why do this? For we have become partakers, partners of Christ, if we hold fast the beginning of our assurance firm until the end. It's not talking about salvation. Salvation is not conditioned on you keeping going, or else you'd never know if you were saved because you'd never know if you kept going. No, this is talking about the position of destiny. Whatever that is he has for you in time, and whatever he has purposed for you as his partner in eternity.
Dr. Tony Evans with some encouraging insight for us today from the book of Hebrews. And he'll come back in just a moment to wrap up today's lesson. But first, don't forget to take advantage of that special resource package I talked about earlier, the 13-part audio collection on Hebrews that contains the full-length message you heard today, including portions we didn't have time to share on the air, plus Tony's popular book that explores how to press on in the face of hard times, called Can God Be Trusted in Our Trials? These powerful resources can be yours as our thank you gift when you visit tonyevans.org and make a contribution in support of Tony's work here on the radio and around the world. You can also let one of our resource team members assist you day or night by calling 1-800-800-3222. The number again, 1-800-800-3222. Now, before we get back to Dr. Evans, I wanted to let you know that with the Christmas season fast approaching, you and your kids can experience the animated Stories from the Storyteller Christmas episode. In The Incredible Christmas Dream, Cam comes up with a secret plan to rediscover the true meaning of Christmas. Your kids will enjoy seeing this plan come together in ways he couldn't even have imagined. Be sure to check out The Incredible Christmas Dream and other episodes of Stories from the Storyteller at TonyEvansTV.com. That's TonyEvansTV.com. Every one of us has experienced times when we just need to get some rest. Well, tomorrow, Dr. Evans talks about how God wants to give that to us and what we need to do to be able to receive it. Right now, though, he's back to wrap up today's message.
You must keep going even when you don't feel it. You must keep going even when your brain doesn't conceive it. You must keep going in following Jesus. You must keep going in believing in your faith. It won't always be easy. And you may fall down, but if you fall down, make sure you're close enough to somebody who can pick you up. Because see, when you fall down and you're by yourself, you're going to quit. Okay, but if you got somebody pulling you along, encouraging you along, even if you fall down, you get up, or they can help you up, or they can carry you, or walk with you. He's saying keep going because he wants you to reach your destiny, because he wants you to be his partner. Yeah, you're a child of God, but we're not talking about being children of God. We're talking about being partners of Jesus. That's a whole different level of life.